Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are starting on page 142 of Jack's Run. In this, what we are learning, or what we just learned about, rather, is Sam has kind of told Patricia who he was, what his life story was, and what he knows. He's kind of reassuring, or not really, he's not intentionally reassuring her, but more just kind of explaining things about where Neil's at, because Patricia honestly had questions like, how did you know who we are? How did you know some of this information? And Sam has told her that, he's not reassuring her. He's just telling her where everything kind of stands, and she's soaking it all in. They're on the way to get the kids. So what's going to happen? Jack had said that he was looking at every inch of the place. Is there a way out? He's also noticed that, those keys that the quote unquote spider or Snake Eyes leaves the keys in the door every time she walks in. And there's also some knives that are there. So we'll have to see what happens. So let's begin. I'll just read a teeny bit at the bottom. I think that Neil's motivation started to shift. He began to write things down. When he started the diary, he was back in the game, going after the bad guys. When all the pieces were in place, he would have moved against Alonzo. They arrested him before he gave himself the chance. Patricia was still not totally convinced, but there was some truth to what Sam was saying. What about you, she asked. At the Nevada, you mentioned that you were living in a different country. France, Sam said. I've been brought out of retirement. To do what? I think it's best if we save that answer for another conversation, Sam said. Before all this happened, I was going to try and get in touch with you. Really? Sam nodded. I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity that would allow you to become the Osborne family again. Permanently. Something that would help Neil to find himself. I'm all ears, Patricia said. I'd do just about anything to keep the Osborne family together. It won't be without risks, but keeping a family together is worth a lot of risk. Sam glanced at his watch. I'll tell you all about it, but first I need to check on some things. Patricia watched him walk to the back of the airplane. He had been making and receiving calls and using his computer throughout the long flight. Who was Sam Sebastian really? Chapter 25. El Sereno sat in a car across the street from the Greens and watched the two S. Marshals go in and come back out of the house. He recognized them as Doris Welty and Don Smites, the Osborne's handlers. Why are they here, and why did they leave so quickly? He wrote down the license plate number of their rental cars. They drove away. With that, he could find out all he needed to know about where the Marshals were going. Alonzo had sent him to Manteo to retrieve Neil Osborne's diary, confident that Neil would turn it over to them now that they had his children. El Sereno watched the house from his car for 10 more minutes. When no one else came out, he walked across the street and peered through one of those side windows for another 10 minutes. The Osbornes were not home. He picked the lock on the back door. Inside, he made a quick search, finding the same evidence the Marshals had found. The Osbornes had packed some things, and they looked like they left in a hurry. He made a call to a friend and gave him the Marshals' license plate number. 5 minutes later, his friend called him back. Marshals Welty and Smites had flown down from Washington, D.C. to Norfolk earlier that day, and just moments ago, they booked a flight from Norfolk to Atlanta. He emailed Alonzo the information. The reply came back almost immediately. Alonzo told him to go to Atlanta and find out what the Marshals were up to. By the time the email arrived, El Sereno was already on his way. Chapter 26. Alonzo nearly threw the handheld against the cinder block wall when he got Neil Osborne's reply about the diary. He did not like to be threatened, and he was not used to people dictating terms to him. His response going from Alonzo to Raphael. We have some trouble here. I will give you the details when I find out more. Neil is not fully cooperating and may need more incentive. Before the next photo, have Zita work the boy over so Neil knows we're serious. And give me an update on how our preparations are proceeding for the meeting. A. Alonzo had a highly developed sixth sense, which had saved his life on numerous occasions. He could feel trouble coming, and he felt the prickly sensation now, moving up his spine like a spider. Jack, Chapter 27. Jack listened to Joanne crying in the bedroom for a long time and felt terrible. He wished there was something he could say to make her feel better, but the truth was, nothing he said would change the fact that they were locked up in a concrete bunker with a maniac cowboy threatening to pay her a visit. He went into the bathroom to check in the mirror for damage and realized that he now had 2 bumps on his head, one on front and one on back. 2 things were obvious. It would be a while before he'd be wearing his baseball cap, and in order to get out of here, he'd have to use his head for something other than a battering ram. When he came out of the bathroom, Jack noticed how heavy the door was. He took a closer look and saw it was made out of a solid slab of hard wood. The other thing he noticed is that the door was hung wrong. His father had taught him that doors were always hung to swing in when you enter a room and pulled close when you leave. This gave him an idea. He went back into the bathroom and was happy to see that the glass shower stall was opaque, perfect for what he had in mind. Next, he went to the utility room. On the shelf above the washer and dryer was a toolbox with a couple of screwdrivers, a tape measure, wrenches, a small saw, a hammer, and some other odds and ends. Everything he needed. In the corner of the room was a broom. He sawed the wooden handle off, then cut it into small sections. In the kitchen, he used a hammer, chisel, and a paring knife to whittle the section into shims. Next, he went into his bedroom. There was a long wooden shelf above the clothes rack. He took it out, measured it, then cut off the end. He brought both pieces into the living room and nailed the small piece he had cut off onto the floor, onto the back of the sofa. The piece stuck out like a sore thumb, and he was trying to decide how to disguise it when Joanne stepped out of her bedroom with red, swollen eyes. "It's 3 o'clock in the morning," she said. "What are you doing?" "Remodeling." "I am in no mood for your jokes." Jack knew he couldn't pull this off on his own. In fact, it would be pointless to try unless Joanne was with him 100%. He explained what he had in mind, and he had to hand it to her. She listened to the whole plan without a word before she came, totally unglued. "You are out of your mind." "It'll work," he insisted. "Suppose it does," Joanne said. "Then what?" Jack didn't have an answer. All he knew was they couldn't just sit inside the bunker and wait for some miracle to happen, and being trapped underground was really getting on his nerves. He was beginning to think that he had claustrophobia. "As soon as Dad gives them that stupid diary, they'll let us go," Joanne said. Jack shook his head. "I don't think this is about the diary. If it were, they wouldn't have flown us all the way down here. There's more to this than we know. A lot more." "I still say we wait it out," Joanne insisted. Jack took a deep breath. He didn't want to bring this next argument, but she wasn't leaving him any choice. "Raphael is coming back," he said quietly. "Maybe today." Joanne shuddered in revulsion. "We could barricade the door," she said. "I already thought about that," Jack said. "They'll cut the power and water. The food will run out, and all it will do is to delay the inevitable. We've got to get out of here." Joanne spent a minute or two looking at Jack's preparations, then turned to him and said, "We've got 4 hours. We better go over this again." So what is their plan? Let's find out. Smitty leveled out at 200 feet above the thick jungle canopy. It was nearly impossible to see in the dark with the mist rising above the trees. "Are you sure this is right?" he asked Neil through his headset. Sitting in the co-pilot seat, Neil checked the coordinates again. "Affirmative. The strip should be about 15 miles ahead." "And you think this Sam guy knows what he's doing?" "I mean, we could have landed at a regular airport to fuel up." "You're the one who vouched for him back in Elko," Neil pointed out. An hour earlier, Sam had come into the cockpit and told him that they were being met at a secret landing strip to pick up a passenger and some supplies. Smitty glanced at the fuel gauge. "Well, if he's wrong and there's no place to land, we're going to be putting the jet down anyways. We're flying on fumes." He said they'd have fuel, but Sam hasn't said who they were, Neil thought, leaning forward, trying to see through the misty darkness. "There," Neil said. "Lights at 3 o'clock. "Got it." Smitty banked the jet towards the light. As they drew closer, they saw that the lights were actually coming from vehicles. 4 altogether, one parked on either end of the crude runway and one on either side. "It's long enough and wide enough," Smitty said, switching on the landing lights. He lined up with the scar cut into the jungle, lowered the landing gear, then came in for his final approach. The grass runway was not nearly as soft as it looked. He managed to make a near-perfect landing and taxied to the end of the runway. "Swing it around," Neil said, "in case we have to make a quick exit." "We don't have enough fuel to make it to the other end of the runway," Smitty said with a laugh, but he brought the Learjet around anyways. The vehicles started moving towards them, and they were happy to see that one of them was a fuel truck. "I guess they're going to let us take off again," Smitty shut down the engines. Sam already had the door open by the time Neil and Smitty came out of the cockpit. A tall, muscular man in army fatigue stepped into the airplane. "Evening, folks," he said. "Which one of you is Commander Osborne?" Neil was shocked. They were the United States Army. Not only that, the officer's shoulder patch, a black unsheathed dagger against a red background, indicated he was an elite Delta Force operator, the Army's answer to the Navy SEALs. "I'm Osborne. Captain Winters," he gave Neil a salute. "We have most everything you wanted, sir. Neil looked at Sam, but the custodian gave nothing away. The captain pulled a list out of his pocket and started reading. A couple of M4A1s with ammo, sound suppressors, lasers, sights, and grenade launchers, a few blocks of C4, and a roll of M700 fuse. 2 assault vests, a pile of flex cuffs, 2 pairs of night vision goggles, half a dozen XM84 stun grenades, 3 M26 taser pistols, smoke grenades, live flash radio headsets, and a complete medical pack. With each item, Smitty's grin grew broader. "Well, that ought to do her, Captain," he said. Patricia did not know what half the items were, but they all sounded lethal, except for the medical pack, which worried her most of all. "Thanks," Neil said, still slightly stunned. "I'd better go out and check on the refueling," Smitty said. "I'll go with you," Captain Winters offered, starting to follow him out. "I'll have my men put your supplies on board." "Excuse me, Captain," Sam interrupted. The captain stopped. "There should be some more supplies," Sam said, "and another passenger." Captain Winters grinned. "He's here, but he's not too happy. We had to drop him in by tandem parachute to get him here on time. Guess he's never jumped before. The Army Ranger he was hooked up to said he screamed all the way down, and didn't help when they got hung up in the trees. Our medic's giving him some tranquilizers." Sam laughed. "I suspect he has a bag of tranquilizers himself." "He brought along a lot more than a bag," Captain Winters said. "Never seen so much stuff, but he was in no condition to do anything for himself when we cut him down. I'd never seen anyone shake like that. I thought he was having some kind of seizure, but then again, I'd never seen anyone jump out of an airplane wearing a tie and suit either." "I'd better go out and tend to him," Sam said. After they left, Neil looked at Patricia. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine," she answered. "What was that all about?" "You'll have to ask Sam. He appears to be in charge of this operation." He put his arm around her. "Any more messages?" "I turned it off and stowed it in one of the overheads. No point in looking at it if we can't answer." Neil kissed her. "Our chances for getting them back are a lot better with the things Sam managed to scrounge. This is all very familiar territory for me." Anyone have an idea of who it is? I have an idea. Who do we meet in the... Well, he's been in this book just a little bit, but we met him in the first book. A little tacky. "Have you ever done a hostage rescue?" Patricia asked. "Hundreds of times in practice. 3 times for real. Did you lose anyone?" "Nope." Soldiers started handing supplies through the door. When they finished, Smitty came back on board, followed by Sam and his mysterious passenger, who was as far moved from a Delta operator as a human could possibly be. He was small, not much over 5 foot, old and frail, as if he might break if he fell, which seemed on the verge of doing. As Captain Winters and Smitty helped him up the stairs, the captain reported. He was wearing a suit, gray pinstriped, torn at the knees and lapel. His long, thinning white hair struck straight up in places and was sprinkled with jungle debris. The thick, wire-rimmed glasses perched on the end of his rather large nose were twisted and fogged with Panamanian mist. "This is an old friend of mine," Sam said. "Dr. Igor Pavlov." "Oh, I forgot about this. I was thinking it was Benjamin Bender. Sorry, guys." Dr. Pavlov turned and looked at everyone in turn, then something to Sam in what sounded like Russian. Sam responded in the same language, then led him over to one of the seats and back. Dr. Pavlov belted himself in, removed his glasses, reclined the seat, and closed his eyes. "He's had a harrowing experience," Sam said. "He'll be fine after a rest." Everyone on the jet, except for Sam, doubted this and wondered why Dr. Pavlov had been brought on board, but there was no time to discuss it. "You're all fueled up," Captain Winters said. "And since this is deciding to dance, I think I'll stop here. We're pretty close to the 15-minute mark, and I don't know why it's acting like this. So we will come back to this tomorrow."